You think you're dealing with a difficult person? No. What you're facing is a full-blown psychological battlefield. Every toxic individual you encounter isn't just hard to deal with. They are trained manipulators, masters of guilt, and experts at bending reality to serve their ego. If you fail to recognize this, you'll lose more than arguments. You'll lose your energy, your peace, and slowly, pieces of yourself. Today, I'll show you how to stop being their prey and start taking control. 1. The psychology of toxicity. To handle toxic people, you first need to understand their psychology. Toxic individuals often operate from insecurity, past trauma, or a need for control. They may not even realize their behavior is harmful. They are acting out of a distorted perception of the world. Common traits include manipulation. They twist facts to make you doubt yourself. Gaslighting is a classic example. They make you question your reality, leaving you emotionally destabilized. Blame shifting. They refuse responsibility, projecting faults onto others. You'll often hear phrases like, "If you hadn't," or "It's your fault I feel this way." Emotional vampires. They feed off your reactions. Anger, frustration, or guilt. They thrive on it. Your calmness is their kryptonite. Chronic negativity. Every situation is either a crisis or an excuse to complain. This constant pessimism drags down anyone in their orbit. Understanding this is crucial. If you see their actions as personal attacks, you'll constantly react. If you see them as predictable patterns driven by need and insecurity, you gain clarity, and clarity is power. 2. Why stubbornness becomes toxic. Stubbornness in itself isn't bad. It's discipline when applied to goals. But when paired with a lack of empathy, it becomes a weapon. Psychologically, stubborn people resist change because cognitive rigidity. Their brains are wired to favor familiar patterns. Admitting error feels like a threat to their identity. Control issues. Stubbornness is often a power move. They equate yielding with weakness, so they push until you crack. Fear of vulnerability. Changing their mind exposes them to criticism, guilt, or shame. So they dig in harder, defending even irrational positions. Combine toxicity and stubbornness, and you have someone who doesn't just argue, they dominate, manipulate, and trap you in emotional chaos. 3. The cost of engagement. Every second you waste trying to convince a toxic, stubborn person, you pay a price. It's subtle at first, drained energy, anxiety, and frustration. But over time, it becomes far more damaging. Emotional erosion. Constant exposure lowers your emotional threshold. You start overthinking, doubting yourself, and absorbing their negativity. Distorted perception. If they manipulate reality well, you begin to question what's true. You might start apologizing for things you didn't do. Missed opportunities. Focusing on their drama consumes mental bandwidth that could be used for growth, learning, or building positive relationships. The first step in defense is realization. Stop treating them like normal humans who can be reasoned with. They're not. They're patterns of behavior. 4. The first psychological weapon, boundaries. Boundaries are the single most effective tool against toxic and stubborn people. Psychologically, it's not about controlling them. It's about controlling yourself in their presence. Define your limits clearly. Decide what behavior you will tolerate. Silence, insults, manipulation. Set the line and never cross it. Enforce consistently. Boundaries only work if consistently applied. A single lapse will signal weakness and encourage repetition. Emotional distance. Toxic people thrive on reactions. Neutral responses strip them of power. Maintain calm, measured tones. Time as a weapon. Limit exposure when possible. Physical distance reinforces psychological boundaries. Without boundaries, you're just a playground for their toxicity. 5. The mental shift. Detachment, not confrontation. Most people make the mistake of confronting toxic stubbornness head-on. Argument after argument. They try logic, but these individuals aren't logical. Their mind is a fortress. The key is detachment. Emotionally step back, treat their words as noise, not truth. Avoid why questions, asking, "Why are you like this?" triggers defensiveness. Instead, focus on observable behavior. When you do X, I feel Y. Neutral communication, facts over feelings. Stick to reality, not assumptions. This shift is not weakness, it's strategy. When you detach, they lose emotional leverage over you. 1. Mastering psychological leverage. Once you understand the psychology of toxic and stubborn people, the next step is to use leverage not to manipulate like they do, but to control the dynamics in a healthy way. Predictability is power. Toxic individuals operate in patterns. Track their triggers and responses. When you predict their next move, you stay calm while they spiral. Selective engagement. Don't react to every provocation. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? If not, stay silent or redirect. Silence can be more disarming than confrontation. Controlled exposure. Sometimes you can't avoid toxic people entirely, family, co-workers. Schedule your interactions, keep them structured, and don't give them unmonitored access to your emotions. Remember, the goal is not to change them, that's usually impossible, but to remove their control over you. 2. Strategic communication techniques. Toxic, stubborn people often twist words to their advantage. Your communication must be bulletproof. Use I statements. Frame your words around your perception, not their faults. For example, I feel frustrated when X happens, instead of you always do X. Stay fact-based. Keep the conversation grounded in observable reality. Emotions, assumptions, or accusations give them leverage. Limit reasoning battles. Trying to argue logic with someone whose mind is fixed is a trap. State your point, then step back. Silence is often louder than argument. Avoid labeling. Calling someone toxic or stubborn in the heat of the moment triggers defensiveness. Label behavior, not the person. Interrupting me repeatedly is unproductive, rather than you're impossible. Communication becomes a tool to deflect attacks, not to win the conversation. 3. Emotional armor, building resilience. Dealing with toxic and stubborn individuals repeatedly erodes emotional energy. Psychological resilience is your strongest weapon. Mindfulness and self-awareness. Recognize when they trigger your emotions. Awareness lets you respond intentionally rather than react impulsively. Emotional detachment drills. Practice mentally separating yourself from their behavior. Visualize a protective barrier words and negativity bounce off. Internal validation. Toxic people thrive on external validation. Rely on your own standards of self-worth instead of seeking approval from them. Think of it as putting on emotional armor. The stronger your inner boundary, the weaker their weapons become. 4. Manipulation countermeasures. Stubborn, toxic individuals are often manipulative. Here's how to neutralize their tactics. Recognize guilt tripping. Phrases like, "After all I've done for you," are designed to control you. Respond calmly. "I appreciate that, but this is my decision." Avoid over-explaining. Every justification is ammunition for manipulation. Stick to concise responses. Mirror selectively. Reflect their tone only to highlight absurdity, not to mimic aggression. "I hear you, but I disagree" is sufficient. Document interactions if necessary. In workplaces, emails or written records can prevent them from rewriting reality or blaming you later. Manipulation is only effective if you engage emotionally. Deny the bait. 5. Tactical withdrawal. Sometimes the most effective strategy is exit. Psychological warfare is exhausting, and not every battle is worth fighting. Know when to leave. If engagement is depleting your energy without results, step back. Controlled disengagement. Inform them politely but firmly. "I'm not discussing this further right now." Walk away, physically or mentally. Cut ties when necessary. In extreme cases, removing toxic individuals from your life is not only healthy, it's essential. Social and emotional detox is as critical as physical health. Withdrawal is a power move, not a surrender. It signals that your energy is non-negotiable. 6. Reprogramming your mindset. The ultimate defense against toxic, stubborn people is internal control. Train your mind to anticipate toxicity without fear, recognize patterns, expect manipulations, and respond without emotional distortion. Stop taking it personally. Their toxicity reflects their insecurities and rigidity, not your worth. Prioritize your peace over winning. Most toxic people will never admit fault. Seeking justice in conversation is a losing game. Your goal is equilibrium, not victory. Think of toxic interactions as mental sparring. You don't have to land punches, you just survive with your composure intact. 7. Practical exercises for mastery. Here are actionable steps to implement immediately. Daily reflection, write down every toxic encounter and your reaction. Identify patterns, triggers, and what worked. Role-play tough interactions. Mentally simulate conversations to prepare calm, concise responses. Boundary checklist. Define what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior from anyone in your circle. Rehearse enforcing these boundaries. Emotional reset rituals, meditation, journaling, or even physical activity to release pent-up frustration. These exercises train both the mind and the body to withstand psychological pressure. 8. Final word, power is in control, not confrontation. Dealing with toxic and stubborn people is not about confrontation, manipulation, or winning arguments. It's about preserving your energy, protecting your sanity, and maintaining clarity. Toxic people are predictable patterns, not puzzles to solve. Stubbornness is a wall, not a challenge to break. Your goal is mastery over yourself, not them. Once you internalize these principles, you'll find that toxic individuals have less influence than you ever thought possible. They might still act out, but your response or lack thereof becomes the true game changer. Remember this, every toxic, stubborn person you encounter is a test of your mental discipline. Fail, and they consume your life. Win, and you reclaim your time, energy, and freedom. Stop reacting, start controlling, and watch as their power over you evaporates. The battlefield isn't them, it's your mind.